I think we're rolling. I'm also about to start my period, if you needed to know. So I brought my emergency chocolates. These are a necessity. These are also the chocolate truffles. These guys from Trader Joe's. Sponsor me, baby. These get me through every month. They're so good. Snuggling in. Today's a cozy old day. Oh, I should turn that light on. That'd be cute. Woo! Too much? All right. You win. Okay. Wow. Ooh, emotions are here. And I feel them. Hey, friend. When you're done with the truffle, it looks like you got poo hands. Anywho. Wow. Oh, man. What a day. What a life. What a time. It's like the middle of summer, and I'm literally cozied up in sweats and my husband's giant cozy hoodie. We call this the bear in our family. This is this really awesome black hoodie that we found that is like fuzzy. It's got like that fuzz. And I love it. It's so good. And he's not here right now. So I was like, I'm just going to steal that hoodie and wear it. Hi, buddy. Appa's here today as well. Ooh, what am I talking about today? Well, before I jump in, hey, look, I got this package. This is from Cute Camera Co. This is not a sponsored episode. Why am I acting like it is? Buddy, you do not eat chocolate. Chocolate kills animals. Let me hook this here for a minute so I can show you my cool package. All right, so Cute Camera Co. If you're looking for like film cameras and you want to get into doing film photography, this is the second camera I've purchased from them. And the reason is because, oh no. There we go. So look how cute. There's a little sticker on it, adorable. So this company basically refurbishes vintage cameras and just like discontinued cameras or older 35 millimeter cameras, and then gives them like a quality ranking and then resells them. So you could get a good, very good, or excellent quality camera. It's always like cute the way they wrap it. Here's a little note. So cute. I love it. So I got a 35 millimeter, I think it's the Olympus series OM1 a couple months ago because I wanted to start adding on. Oh, they sent me film too. That's awesome. I don't think I ordered that. Did I? I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Who knows? I'll check later. Anyway, I'm so bad at like sticking to a store and like getting to the point. I ordered a 35 millimeter Olympus OM1 camera for my clients because I wanted to start incorporating traditional color film options into their wedding packages and sessions. And what I didn't realize at the time was that there wasn't a flash built into that camera, even though I should have known that. That's like 101. And that's fine for like really good lighting, but a lot of the very trendy film photos that people love are the bright flash ones during the reception. So I was like, I'll just get, one of each. So I'll have my nice traditional OM1 to do really nice, beautiful shots of them. And then I'll have this Olympus Stylus Zoom 80 with the flash, which is just kind of something like probably from the 90s. I don't actually know the date this one was made. Look at Buddy right there. I didn't even realize he was here. Hi, dude. Right, you don't eat chocolate. So I'm going to use this one as well for clients, and it's going to be a fun little addition. So it's so weird when you're like running a business, because if I wasn't and I was like, oh, $370 on a point and shoot camera from the 80s, I'm good. But when you're running a business, you're like, oh yeah, it's a tax write-off. Of course, like not even like, honestly, it doesn't, I don't mean to sound like awful saying this, but like pocket change, you're like, okay, here you go. But it's awesome. It's going to provide some new things for my clients and we'll have fun with it. So Cute Camera Co, babies. All right, now for the meat of what we're talking about today. Once I figure out what that is, I have like a note with my ideas on it. Let me see. Oh yes, why I quit my job. What a good episode. So this is the anniversary of me being 2 years fully self-employed. So if you've heard me chat about my photography journey at all, I often say like, oh, I've been a photographer for 11 years, 10 years, 10 plus years, whatever. And it's all true, but a full-time photographer for, as of today, 2 years, woo! Is that right? 2022? Yeah. So it's been a fun ride, but it definitely still counts because, I mean, everything counts, all your work counts, but it's fun to look back and be like, yeah, I started getting paid for photography when I was 14 and shot my first wedding at 16, and here we are at age 27. And now it's my full-time job, and I've been doing that for 2 years. So I thought I'd chat a little bit today about like why I left my full-time job, how that felt after getting a college degree for that job, and maybe some tips on discernment. A lot of gurus, photographers, educators on the internet are like, quit your job, do it, pursue full-time work, blah, 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 be your own boss. Yeah, but I don't want to just tell you to do that. Honestly, that might not be the right thing to do. Buddy, don't eat that rosemary plant. Appa, no. My friend bought me a rosemary plant. I don't want it to die. So I don't know if I'll be convincing you to quit your job and start your full-time thing today, or well, not. Maybe you'll love your 9 to 5 after this talk. Who knows? But I hope you listen. Theme song.
Creatives, are you struggling to keep up with all your clients' needs? Maybe you feel like you're swimming through emails, DMs, texts, and feel like there's no way to keep communication together. Not to mention keeping track of payments, invoices, contracts, and having to freak out at 2 a.m. because you forgot to email a lead client back. Yikes! My entire workflow shifted when I stopped DIYing my approach and switched to HoneyBook. They are a powerhouse CRM, client relations management tool, if you didn't know, that acts as a coworker you've always needed. HoneyBook helps with invoicing, payment tracking, contracts for every session under the sun, scheduling, lead forms, automations, and streamlining communication to one stop for you. Not to mention your clients will notice the professional difference you bring to the table with the HoneyBook tools. If you're ready to step up your business and feel peace of mind with your client's approach, I have an exclusive offer for you. As a thank you for listening to the India and Stuff show, take 50% off your first year of HoneyBook by going to share.honeybook.com/IndiaJadePhoto. Or if you're like me and that's way too much to remember, just tap the URL in the show notes. Now back to the show.
So the backstory of my job was I went to college for advertising and graphic design. And while I was in college, became a part of this group called CCO, and it was like Coalition for Christian Outreach. So if you've heard of like Crew or InterVarsity, it's very similar, like campus ministry vibes. And I ended up being like a student leader and like the president of the group or whatever, and did it with my friends, which was so great. Like that's how I met most of my community. And honestly, like a lot of my community to this day, like some of my best friends came from that. My small group, my church came from that. So very grateful for the expensive college days because a lot of really cool things came from that experience. So I was a part of this group, I think sophomore year. Yeah. And then junior year and senior year. And I think I shared on a previous episode, you know, I had been attending these events that this group puts on, this like organization, and kind of like started getting the vibe that I should look for my job when I was graduating college. And I remember going into Bible study one day as a senior, and my not boss, that's the wrong word, the like campus minister, the guy who was like helping us with Bible studies and like coordinating events for us. He was like, hey, I thought since we're a design school, we should all sign this card because the designer of the CCO is like retiring. And so I was like, oh, cool. So in my head, I was like, yeah, of course. Like I want to like sign this card. We're visual artists. She's a visual artist. But then I was like, are they hiring? And he was like, I think so. Yeah. And it was just a cool God thing because the job, like she had that job for like 40 years. It was like her whole career to work at this organization and do magazine design and all the visuals involved with like a nonprofit, a national nonprofit. And like, that's rare for a 40-year like held position to open up. And at the same time that I was graduating, what? So that was cool. So we started the interview process, and then they ended up offering me the job, which was awesome. So I started that right after college and, you know, moved to Pittsburgh, jumped in while I was doing my photography business, like on the side. All of that was happening on the side. So it was like 40-hour a week job, and then drive back home for weddings in Ohio. And then eventually got a few weddings in Pittsburgh because of it and like moving out there. And then you guys know the tale. COVID happened the week we got engaged. I had to move in with Ian's parents. It was crazy. It was chaotic. And that was a whirlwind time where I was, again, doing this job and doing weddings and navigating, like switching my couples over to virtual celebrations or delayed parties or half courthouse, half reception on a different day, or like all that. And so I was basically with this place for a while. Great overall mission, like really fun coworkers, a lot of good memories there. But I was doing like advertising, graphic design, photography, illustration, copywriting, social media management, strategy, just like a lot, which can be expected at most nonprofits, or most, I should say, like smaller entities. I remember a college professor saying that when I was like, I don't know what I want to do after this, like working as a graphic designer who's just like stuck in Illustrator all day, like moving the pen tool back and forth, sounds awful. Like, does not sound like I'd be living the dream or even, you know, like my life at that point. It just hunched over a computer all day, like worrying about pixels is just not my thing. But he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was sharing how I really like the visionary aspect of things. I like being the idea generator. I like critiquing other people's work. I like having a creative voice on like a overhead bird's eye view position. And he's like, well, I think you want to be like an art director. I was like, yeah, I think like that's what I want to do. And he was like, well, you know, that's something to work for, obviously, of course, but also you could scratch that. I hate that phrase, scratch that itch. You could like basically get the satisfaction of doing what an art director does by having your hand in multiple things. And if you want to have your hand in multiple things and like be a creative and not get bored as a creative, then you might want to look for a smaller job, a smaller agency, or a smaller nonprofit. Because when there's a smaller team of creatives, you'll be handling a little bit of everything. So I was grateful for that insight. Whoa. Sorry, that was me, guys. I was grateful for that insight. But yeah, I didn't know exactly like what that would look like. And I think this is very common in ministry contexts, churches, nonprofits, etc., that we need to be gentle with if we're like, especially Christians, the overwhelm and burnout in the name of I pledge allegiance to my ministry. That's pretty high, I think, in a lot of people's positions. And so that can be a really dangerous thing we have to navigate. We can't ask employees to say like, oh yeah, I'll just take on like 4, 5, 6, 7 different roles that at any other place we'd like hire out for this. I'll just do it because we love Jesus, you know, and like, who does it, you know? Well, lots of people don't love Jesus, but I think what I'm trying to say in fewer words, we just need to be gentle when you're taking something that is good and saying, hey, like we are working to spread the gospel of Jesus. This is a good thing. And we can't make that alone it's okay, you know, measuring stick. If we say, well, hey, wait a second, I'm working like 80 jobs and getting paid for half of one, or I'm spending 90 hours on this is not just me, by the way. This is like just projection and summarization of a lot of things. I think pastors go through this. I think creatives go through this. I think ministry staff goes through this. A lot of people feel like, well, yeah, I'm like doing it for the Lord. So it's okay that I'm like suffering in my personal life or my, work-life balance is way off because it's all giving all this time to something and not seeing a lot of the other things that I need happen because I'm just like sacrificing for the cause. A lot of creatives go through this in non-ministry contexts and in non-Christian environments too. I think a lot of the time, this is kind of an issue. I was talking to a friend about this who's out in LA trying to get into the gaming world and gaming design and all this stuff. And I guess there's been a lot of layoffs and just like budget cuts and all these things at, movie places, gaming places, creative agencies, and they'll just bait young, talented college kids with like a job, offering them way lower than they deserve for the same job. And then they'll be there for like 2 years and then turn over and be like, this is unsustainable. And then that company goes, oh, sorry, you must not be passionate enough for us. And then they'll let them go and then post the same job 2 years later for less pay. You know what I mean? Like, I think we've been seeing this a couple of times in the creative world of like, let's just abuse the artists. They don't need to eat, or the creatives hustle harder. So they're just going to keep hustling for us. And even though we know we should be paying them like 70, 80K, we'll just start them at like 36 because they should be happy to work at Disney. Like whatever it is, insert your scenario. I think this happens a lot in the creative world. I'm not as attuned to finance world, medical world, engineer world, but I just don't hear those folks who are in my life ever really complaining about their salary not matching or their like boundaries and job description going way above and beyond what they're actually doing. So anyway, that's my rant. So now I'm getting back to my actual story. So I was at this nonprofit for 3 years. It was pretty good overall, like, not awful. Couple crazy things happened while I was there, which I was like PTSD vibes. So definitely needed to like back away a little bit or just reevaluate what I wanted to do with my work overall. And it did get to that place where I was feeling like I was doing like 4 people's jobs, 5 people's jobs, and the salary was like truthfully about half of what you should get paid to do one job. And so it was a little frustrating on that front, but then again, it's like, it's a nonprofit and I get it and blah, blah. But it's a hard thing when money's not necessarily my motivator, but it is a real thing. And you have to kind of hold apples and oranges and just be like, well, hey, wait a second. I love this mission, but I could go work at Abercrombie and make twice as much doing less work because it'd be more structured. So it's a hard thing to balance. And I think it's a very real thing for our generation who's now, I'm the millennial generation, barely, I'm 96. But it's a hard thing to watch the economy feel like it's completely crumbling. And the boomer generation, is kind of in a good spot, it feels like, with owning homes, paying off mortgages, having timeshares, having paid off vehicles, all this amazing stuff. And then our generation's kind of like, we're trying our darndest to keep up with our mortgage. Thankfully, praise the Lord, we have 2 vehicles that are paid off, but they're going to kick the dust any second now. And our home is also not put together. And we've got student loans to pay off for the next 20 years. It's this wacky place of, I'm grateful for the people above us and happy they're happy, but also looking at like the future of finances for people like me and my husband going like, hey, we'd love to start a family one day, but like genuinely, we do not have the funds to do that. Like, we would love to be out of student debt. That's always kind of been our rules. Like, hey, we want to be out of student debt before we like have a kid, because that would just be a great thing. I don't know, if we actually follow through with that, we might not ever be having kids, It just gets to that place where you're like, sliced bread is like $6 for the chemical garbage. And if you want organic, it's $9. Like, how are we supposed to live in this? I'm not an economist. Anyway, I digress. So back to the story. I kind of go through this evaluation process, thinking about my job and deciding if I want to stay or not. And while this is happening, like, photography has been kind of taking off. And I'm ending up making more money from doing 8 weddings a year on the side, and a handful of like engagement sessions. I'm like making more money from doing my photography side hustle than I am from my full-time 40-hour-a-week job. Eek! So that was a initial indicator of like, again, money's not my main motivation, but it is a factor and it is a motivation. So if we're looking at just the numbers, the photography thing is going to make a lot more sense. And then the next thing was energy-wise, what's working, and saying, hey, 40-hour-a-week job, is great, and I could stay, but because of the circumstances of COVID and we were moving and all this stuff, I was like living very far away from the office location in another state and being asked to like commute into that office like once a month. So it's like, okay, I have to do a 5-hour one-way drive, find lodging with a friend, stay the night, do this office stuff, and then 5 hours back. How sustainable is that? So then the third level is like half of this is over the like Zoom because of COVID. Half of this was taking place, at this distance thing, and just like all of those factors, all of that fatigue that came with COVID on top of like, oh, and I'm running my side business. Oh, and I have to commute a little bit, a couple times a month. And also I'm doing like 3-4 jobs. So got to this point where I was like, I need to have a conversation with my boss. He was great. We did. And I just kind of like started feeling in my own soul, like it's time to move on. So I did this discernment just like I took a few months and prayed. I was like, Lord, what should we do? And I just felt peace about moving on from it, even though it was very scary. So I brought my team muffins and told them I was going to leave. And it was emotional, but it was good to say, okay, I'm going to make this educated decision and move on. And then I believe I've already shared all this on here, but what was nuts about that was I did all that thinking, praying, whatever, put my 2 weeks in, and then June of 2022 started my first full month self-employed entirely. And my husband at the same time was holding down a good job at a college and came to me 2 weeks later and was like, hey, babe, I think I need to leave my job. And so within 1 month, both myself and my husband were fully self-employed. Talk about freaky. That was just a lot. But the Lord provided through it. It was really encouraging to see how that all happened. And now we're here. But yeah, so that was kind of my transition process. And I think from that, I learned that if you are in that place where you're like, should I leave my job? What should I do? Ask yourself a couple questions. Ask yourself, number one, what's my main motivator? Is it money? Is it time? Is it flexibility with schedule? Is it traveling? Like, is it that I want to be more creative and want to dabble into more things, that I'm being limited? Is it leadership? Like, do I need someone above me that's different or better in a different way? Is it support? Is it I just need more staff so that I'm not the only one doing this thing? So ask yourself those questions before you just put your 2 weeks in, and present those to whoever you need in your circle, whether that's friends or your boss or whatever, and just bringing up some of those concerns. Because some of it could be like, hey, I really just want more vacation days. I'm feeling a little burnout with all these responsibilities. So you just can go to your supervisor and ask that of them. And they could say, oh, well, what if we gave you 3 more PTO days a year, 5 more PTO days a year, and, we re-zhuzh your responsibilities and make sure that someone else on the team can help take 1 or 2 things off your plate. Like, that could be it. And you go, oh, maybe I don't need to quit. Maybe I just need like a little support here, or I need to like communicate my needs. I would say I'm really guilty of that too, is like sometimes it's really hard to communicate what I actually need. I just like to feel it all, or be like, yeah, I can do that. And then go home and be like, I can't do that. Like, why did I say yes to that? So it's good to periodically check in with your teammates if you're in a work environment that has that, and express like, hey, I actually, can't do this, or I'm not the only, like, I can't give my extra time or capacity to this role or help with this project, and I need more support. So first thing, ask yourself questions. Second thing, give it time. I think we are coming out of the period of it's like very trendy to like be on Instagram and be like, I quit my job at Corporate Girl Boss Co. and now I sell lipstick on the street and I'm a millionaire. Like, okay. I think we saw a lot of influencers pushing that life and that mindset. And I'm probably guilty of that too, because I do like being self-employed. But there are times where that is the vibe. That is what you should do, is escape that thing and go, you know what? I've had too much. It's time. I really need to prioritize my mental health. I need to prioritize my physical health and wellness. We shouldn't be working this way. We are in this crazy consumeristic, capitalistic, Americanized version of life on this side of the globe. And maybe I shouldn't do all this. Like, maybe I need to fight back and take a step and leave being the cog in the wheel and know that it'll be fine. And sometimes knowing that takes time. It takes discernment. It takes pausing and not just feeling motivated to quit your job because you saw some TikToker tell you to and then quit the next day. Like, maybe you need to take like a month, 2 months, 3 months, a quarter of really processing what that would look like. The next part of that is like, if you are someone who has, personal faith, for me, that's like being a Christian. I would say the biggest thing is like discern with God. Like, we love to add God in when it's convenient for us, but not often when there's consequences attached. And so I think it's like, if you really, really, really want to quit your job, you'll be like, yeah, God told me to quit. But like, did he? Maybe he did, but maybe you need to take that time and pause and be with community and be with the Lord and ask, like, God, I'm going to have to deal with the consequences of this either way. I know that you bless me if I do, and you bless me if I don't in this situation, but please guide my steps. And I think by praying that prayer, hopefully you will start to feel peace one way or the other from the Lord. And that is what I would recommend following above anything else. So on top of that, I would say the other question to ask is, do you have a game plan? If you do make a whole stink at work and then end up staying, do you have a game plan for that? How to like manage that? I've seen a couple people get really close to like quitting and they're like, I'm going to take you down with me, and like raise all hell when they're getting ready to leave and have this big storm out. And then they end up staying. And then it's like, like a little awkward. I don't know. I think you should just be wise and don't burn bridges, whether you stay or go. Like, it's important to have a good relationship with people when you're leaving an employment place. Like, yeah, it's just like being respectful and being nice. But if you do go, do you have a plan? Because, excuse me, I burped. It is really, again, appealing to say, yeah, like, screw you, corporate girl boss nation. I'm going to leave and start my own flower farm. Or just leave. Some people are just like, I just want to leave and be a little travel influencer. But I think it's important to consider, what am I doing now while I'm at this job to prepare for my exit? When I was getting ready to leave my job, before I announced it, while I was in my discernment phase, I was like, well, while I'm here wondering if it's going to go one way or the other, I'm at least going to like start to prep the soil for my exit. As in, I was starting to put more things in place to become a full-time photographer.
Hey, business owner, does tax season make you want to yank your hair out? I mean, there's income to report, expenses to keep track of, mileage to log, and a million questions that come up. I have dreaded every single tax season since the start of my business, until recently. If taxes scare you and bookkeeping sends you over the edge, I think I found something that's going to help keep your hair and your sanity in place. Collective is a group of real live humans that work for small business owners and entrepreneurs of all kinds. They offer accounting and bookkeeping services all in one to help you understand your business's financial state and prepare for tax season like a pro. I absolutely feel so much better about all things taxes now that I've switched, and honestly, I wish I would have done it a little sooner. If you're ready to walk confidently into this next season of business with your bookkeeping, Collective is perfect for you. Head to collective.com and use code INDIAMCCUE, that's INDIAMCCUE at checkout, or just tap the link in the show notes. Happy bookkeeping, and back to the show.
I was investing in more courses, workshops, in-person events. basically I was trying to start getting the ground prepared for the next season. Even if I wasn't going to go full time, at least I was going to get things ready for more work either way. You know, I was like, well, I'm not leaving photography either way. So either I just do it and stay at this job, but then the job itself changes a little, or I go full time. So I was getting those pieces in place. So I think, yeah, ask yourself questions like, hey, if I do leave this job, what's my next step? Do I need a month off to decide that? Do I want to take some time off work in general? Am I taking a sabbatical? Am I doing this for kids? Am I trying to start a family, plan a family, whatever? Do I have a passion already that I want to turn into a business? And if so, how can I start getting that going? Maybe you start your Instagram page. Maybe you tell your dream to a few friends. Maybe you start investing in it a little bit. Maybe you get the gear or the, product or inventory going. Maybe you go to Shark Tank. I don't know. Maybe you start getting a client base ready, getting a market for it, doing some research, and start getting your business started as a side hustle before you quit your main job. Like that phrase, don't quit your day job. It's true. Don't quit your day job until you know kind of where you're going. Even if it's just, I just need a month off to decide. Sure, that's fine. But maybe before you quit your day job, ask for PTO or ask for a little mini sabbatical or take all your vacation days and book a trip somewhere and do that before you're just out in the open. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of close friends of mine be like, yeah, I can't do it anymore. I'm putting in my 2 weeks, and then they go on a vacation, they come back, they're like, I'm good. I'm all good now. Maybe you just need a rest for a second. But ask yourself those questions, do some groundwork, and I think that would help the transition go a lot better. But yeah, once I did that, I was doing things like posting TikToks more. I was getting the client base is a little stronger. I was trying to book more. I was meeting up with more vendors and photographers, get my name out there more. And all of that really, really helped the transition go from, 0 to 100 kind of thing. Side hustle photographer to full-time. And then I think another important thing for me in all of this was I fasted social media for the most part. Maybe I think I had a parameter of how I was using it because it was involved with both my jobs. But I kind of fasted social media while I was discerning, so I wasn't being influenced by other voices about what I should do with my employment. I think that's really important in this world too. It's just like we said already, you're listening to my voice right now, and maybe you're feeling one way or the other, thinking, oh, she's really convincing me to quit my job, or, oh, I'm really grateful to have a job, I should stay. So all that is something to consider as you're in your little creative zone. But it was good. I left and still love them. I still do some freelance work for them once in a while. I go to their event once a year and work for them. It's all good. And that's why I say don't burn bridges. It's important to have good relationships with coworkers, ex-coworkers, whatever. Down the line, you never know when that's going to come back around, or when you'll need a review or someone to chat with, or run into them on the street, So all of that happened, and I jumped into photography full time, and there were some scary months for sure. There were some scary months, but it's been a really, really big blessing to have that freedom, that flexibility of saying, okay, I'm going to book a trip and go do this styled shoot, or I'm going to go visit a friend on a Tuesday in New York City because I can, or my husband and I got to go camping a number of times and road tripping a number of times, and we're just eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in Maine on a Wednesday. And it's what a blessing this is, having that free schedule. But on the flip side, there's a lot of money that comes in and goes out when you are your own boss. And it's not all just pocketed. You guys know this stuff, but a lot of the time you make a lot of money and then your expenses go up with taxes or expenses, camera gear, licenses. There's things that change when you are a full-time employee, specifically in photography. When you take yourself seriously and you start investing in insurance and licenses, and you're not just running around doing it the skimpy way, if that makes sense. You are a full timer. You want good contracts in place, you want good CRMs in place, You want to like show up and dress well and be professional for your clients. So I think a lot of that mindset shift from, oh, they understand this isn't my full-time job. They know that I'm just like basically a fresh out of college girl, or at times a teenager. So there was like this built-in grace bubble of like, oh, she's just like a young photographer, like learning. But when I switched to full-time, it was like, oh, the expectation of myself and of the client is going up of like, this is her full-time job. You know, you got to show up before the time starts. You got to look right. You got to have your gear cleaned and your sensors, you know, spick and span. You got to know what you're doing behind the camera. You cannot just be showing up to a wedding day being like, I don't know what's happening. So I'm grateful for that mindset shift. And so I really tell people that I mentor that too, is it's not just, you know, the same old thing you've been doing this whole time. Like one of the students that I mentored, she went from, you know, working another job to full-time photographer while we were working together. And I can just tell, you know, it goes from, oh, I'm a hobbyist, there's grace here, to like, I need to know my shiz. I need to know what I'm doing. If I'm going to charge people a premium price, I got to make sure that the back end of the business is smooth, that I'm not cutting corners, that I'm paying people the right amounts, that I'm putting in the work on the back end as well. So there's my little spiel today. So it's been a minute that I've been doing this full time, which is a lot of fun. I'm very, very grateful for it. And I would say I just need to shout the biggest thank you out to my clients, because obviously this wouldn't be the case without you. I'm just continually surprised, floored, honored that like God has given me this place to know so many people and to continue meeting people through this means of photography. I definitely would say that when I started out, it was like everyone I knew, you know, I didn't photograph strangers. Maybe my first wedding I did. Well, for the most part, I really didn't photograph strangers. It was always someone knew me, saw my work, gave it to someone else. Someone's mom hired me, someone's aunt, someone's grandma found me. And now, like, I have 30-something weddings this year, 34 weddings this year. And I think maybe 2 of them are people that I know personally. Maybe 3 max. You know, so like 29 weddings of completely unique, I can't do math, 34 minus 3 is 31. Whatever. You get the idea. The majority, probably 95% of my weddings that I'm getting, my clients are not people that I know. So that is just a testament to like the Lord's provision, some kick butt marketing strategy. Hire me for a mentorship session if you need help. And just like the testament of like good work, good, faithful, long work. Like I've been doing this for a number of years and started as a little poor teenager. And now I'm a medium-sized poor adult, you know, but it's been a cool journey to see how it's changed and how it's grown from here. And this is my income. So my husband's calling me, so I'm gonna wrap it up and we're gonna get this evening started. Yeah, honey.